Today we'll be talking about global citizenship education, why every school needs it. Now, this is, very late to take up this topic because many years back when the United Nations decided on something called the Sustainable Development Goals, they took a goal which is SDG 4, quality education, and in that they had a target 4.7 which talks about global citizenship education. The idea behind this was very simple. What nations felt after the Second World War is if we could have a forum where we could come together, have a conversation, and avoid wars. As a consequence of that, they thought, let's teach children global citizenship so that we may not have wars. So, what we can see right now in the world, nothing worked out. But let's see what school leaders and educators think about it at a point when global order is changing, reforming, we see countries fighting like cats and dogs. What do we really need global citizenship actually for? Is it critical? Is it something that has lost its relevance? Is it something that needs to be renewed? What do the school leaders think? What do students think is what we'll know in today's
Good
session.
day, my brilliant colleagues and leaders from all over the world. And I just wanted to say that I have a small confession to make. When I received the poster for this event, I thought that this is exactly what students in a globalized world feel when they are inside a classroom. It's diversely rich with different people from different perspectives. They must felt like I felt. So you said a very nice introduction about the importance of the global citizenship and whether it's working or not. I strongly believe that it is working. However, we must maintain our roots at the same time. So the developmental psychology, which is a study that I actually like, tells us that the identity is not a zero-sum game. So children do not lose their love for their mother tongue by learning English or Spanish or French or any other languages. Did not forget the local festivals by celebrating other festivals globally. However, we just need to focus on the most important thing here, which is the globalization without roots is just a fragmentation. In my country, Egypt, we do have a very strong heritage and a even stronger history. A 700 years old heritage. Ancient Egyptians invented paper, toothpaste, hieroglyphics, pretty much everything. So if we teach our children to be global citizens by just erasing their love for local food like ful and ta'miyya, ful and falafel, like the Western world like to say, or by forgetting the stories of the Nile River, we're not creating a global citizen. We are creating tourists in their own lives or their own country. So, from my point of view, is that we need to have some kind of a balance between the local culture, proud local heritage. Every school must teach local history first and show how important it is. Know your grandmother's recipe or food, the favorite team, the river's name, the poetry of the street. This is pretty much the anchor, if we can say it. So it is just, helping you to float. Then the effective global citizen is that you take the anchor and try to explore the world with it. So it is pretty much important to have the anchor first before you just travel with it. So this is the most important thing from my perspective as an educational leader, because sometimes we see students, let's say in Egypt, they are speaking the majority of time in English and they neglect some words in Arabic, although it's easier to say it in Arabic because they think that it's cool. Yeah, I know it's not true, but it's some kind of a trend. They think that if we copy and mimic some kind of other languages or cultures, then we're cooler that way. So again, I'm stressing on the importance of being a global citizen. Yes, it's very important. Yes, it is how I do believe it's how we are going to survive, even if there are still conflicts or some kind of differences between each other, which is a normal thing because we do have different perspectives. But again, I do believe that in order to survive, we have to survive together, all of us. So we need to raise our children, our students, that first they have to be proud of their roots. And then, building on such anchor, we just need them to also be open to other cultures and not to be judgmental and to accept the differences that we have, because this is what makes us really beautiful.
Anything that happens in any part of the world now impacts everyone at any place, and rather everywhere. That is the reason you cannot avoid global citizenship anymore. But the real challenge that comes up is what is the essence that started this conversation. How do we balance that national identity with a globalized citizen? That's a challenge that the world is facing right now. Do I teach them more about the anchor, or do I tell them more about the world that they're going to
So much,
explore?
and thank you for having me here. And I'm so pleased I didn't go first. Thank you, Dr. Yassin, for doing that for me, because I think you raise a really interesting point, and that notion of balance between identity and global citizen. And what I would say is I don't think it's an either or. I think it goes hand in hand. And when we look at this world and what is diversity and how absolutely wonderfully glorious this world is because of our differences, that is where I think we really lay the starting point. Because what we know, and when we think about the sustainable goals, and when we think about all the initiatives post World War II to make the world a better place, and we sit here now today going, and it's all happening again. I think fundamentally the pieces is that change is always going to happen. People are going to change around us. Power is always going to be part of what motivates people. And if we understand that if we're going to make the world a better place, we need to create spaces and schools where humans are safe, where humans are free to be safe, to make mistakes and be who they are, in order to then take risks and ask questions and maybe change the world. And my husband does tease me and say I'm very idealistic, but I'm going to stand firm in the ground. And one of the things that I'm absolutely committed to is that it's not an either or about global citizenship. It's the purpose of education. It's why we do what we do. Teaching our children facts and knowledge and concepts are the tools we use to help them better understand the world so they can take their education. And let's be honest, our students who are in international education are privileged, and they're going to take that education and actually use it to make the world a better place. So where do we start? And I'm old. I've been through many iterations, and for a long time it was, let's not look at difference, let's look at all the pieces that unify us. And I think that is true. That is true. If we're really going to look at how we do better and how we work together, it's commonalities, it's shared stories, it's connections that we have, and that's what's fundamentally what binds us. But difference is glorious. Understanding different people, their journeys, their pathways, their experiences, the foods they eat, the reason they celebrate certain things in their homes, the reason they have beliefs, their religion, all of that difference helps us do better, because then we understand and we know. And so I firmly believe that in international schools, you're right, Dr. Yassim, the first and foremost place we do is we steep our children in their identity and their culture, whether it's culture of country of where the school is at. We're in Thailand, so doesn't matter where you're from, you need to be steeped in understanding the Thai culture and the elements that make that culture unique and glorious. Because when you understand one culture, you then are able to transfer that to different contexts. And then it is going beyond the food, festivals, and flags, or as you said, we don't want tourists. We want humans who look at the world, who ask questions respectfully and carefully and with a curious mindset. I'm going to wrap it up. and a desire to learn more and be better as a result of that curiosity.
A lot of people across different nations feel that global citizenship threatens the national identity that operates the political scenario in a lot of countries. They feel it's an intrusion to culture. But that perception melted over time, and we came into today's scenario when these organizations that were supposed to stop war, organizations that were supposed to bring everyone on the same page, could not do that successfully. The only form of education that always finds space in every single course book across the globe is the education that makes money. So, does global citizenship also make money for an individual?
Good evening to everybody. And as Dr. Yassin and Donna have said, it's a real pleasure to be here. So thank you so much for the invitation. Okay, global citizenship. Yeah, I work in a school that probably doesn't have a hugely diverse student population. We have predominantly Southeast Asian students attending, but we do have students that come from very different parts of Asia, some from Europe as well. So I suppose the diversity there in that they come to our school, they come to our community with very different concepts of self and of the world. So I was really interested when Dr. Yassin was talking about the importance of starting with a clear sense of who you are and your place in the world. And I absolutely agree, that's really important. But where do things start to unravel? Where do things start to go wrong when we all start to integrate and rub up against each other? If the goal is it should all work out so well, what's fundamentally going wrong? And I think the obvious question is it's preconceived ideas, it's prejudice, it's not asking the right sorts of questions, and it's not being respectful and leaving space for people to be different. And I think if we're going to make a success as an industry, as a humanity, if we're going to make a real success of global education, global citizenship, it's, I think, to make it much more safe and much more the norm to ask questions, to be curious about one another. As Donna said, it is incredible how diverse humanity is across the globe, that it can have so many different manifestations and concepts of good and concepts of honor and concepts of strength and concepts of all these things have multiple interpretations. That's fantastic. And I think one of the joys of working in international education, one of the joys in helping to facilitate global citizenship in our individual ways is how can we share that with the young people that are in our care, and how can we help them to be excited about the myriad of forms that humanity takes around the globe. So I think in our school, it manifests in things like we'll have international days, and I'm sure lots of schools do the same. Let's not only just find out about food and culture, but let's celebrate the fact that there are so many differences. Let's celebrate the fact that it's wonderful that what you think is really tasty food, I might go, oh my goodness, no, I can't imagine that. You know, I can say to some of my Southeast Asian friends, yeah, cheese and pineapple on a pizza, and they go, what? Seriously? I'm like, yeah, seriously. They find that hilarious. But then, you know, I feel the same about sardine donuts. I can't quite get my head around the sardine donuts with cheese thing on and sugar. But anyway, it's an example of there's so many different ways to interpret similar things. And I think that's the joy of international education. So my own experience as well, having been an international traveler, is I really liked the fact that I go somewhere and straight away I'm like, okay, I'm curious. Why do they do that? Why is the system like that? Why does it work that way? And it's the joy, the privilege is having that opportunity to go sit down, be quiet, learn, watch and learn. And I think that's the invitation to all young people. And if it's gone wrong, anyway, if we're saying that something's gone wrong, I think people need to take more time to sit down and listen and learn.
This challenge that comes up when you try to teach global citizenship across the globe, across schools, is in its own innate self, it's an unteachable skill. You cannot teach it. You will have to make people experience it. You can have a World Culture Day. You can have an International Day at school. You will have to give them authentic experiences if you really want to transform them into global citizens.
When I talk about global citizenship, and I feel the points made here were something like when you talk about inclusivity, when you talk about global citizenship, and India in itself is a huge country with a lot of diversity, and a lot of Indians who move from one state to another, they eventually learn or they have to learn. Either they eventually learn or they're forced to learn. So inclusivity becomes a part and parcel of our culture. That said, there was a long period of colonization in India, which has, I would say, the hangover is still there, probably in certain parts of the country. And I feel that colonial hangover needs to be removed, due to which a lot of policies, national education policy of 2020 has been trying to build upon the nationalism part of education, which necessitates schools in India to make children aware, make students aware more about their own nation, and glorify less westernization, in a way. So that kind of puts a lot of burden on the schools to, I wouldn't say a burden, but a lot of direction, or I would say mandate given by the government and the boards to put it in our curriculum. And we probably had not done it so far. So it's more than learning about the globe. It's important to learn about your own culture. Otherwise, if your roots are not strong, you will always feel that you're inferior. And that is where the NEP 2020 wants schools and educational institutions to work upon. That said, I think education as a society takes some time. It doesn't happen overnight. And even unlearning takes a lot of time. So a lot of wrong things which have been learned over the past 200 years of, I would say 700-800 years, probably, which has put a lot of indigenous culture on strain, or has been neglected for quite some time, the original culture, and which is very, very strong. The original indigenous culture of India was very inclusive, and that's the reason why a lot of invaders came and settled down here. That's simple. It goes without saying that India was very inclusive, very open, and very accepting, very, very welcoming foreigners warmly. Atithi Devo Bhava, and the whole world is one family. That system was already there in India. So probably that was somewhere the westernization of Indian education had diminished in a way, not uprooted, but diminished, or I would say decreased the actual essence of education. So right now, what the governments and the policies, education policies in India are doing is to bring back the lost glory. So if you feel strong about your own culture, it doesn't matter wherever you go or whoever comes to brainwash you. You are strong. And when you're strong, you feel like welcoming others. You feel like including everybody, because there's nothing to worry about. There's nothing to feel insecure about. So that sense of security must be built first, and then globalization obviously will happen. It was always there. India was quite global right from the time of ancient history.
Good day, everyone. My name is Fatima Vechali, a graduate student of Future Prowess Islamic Foundation School and a proud member of the World Team Parliament. Global Citizenship Education is a type of education that helps students understand the world around them and teach them how to live peacefully and responsibly with others. It prepares students to understand. It prepares students to become active members of society who can contribute positively to their communities and the world at large. Nelson Mandela once said, "Education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world." Today, I believe that one of the most important forms of education our schools really need is global citizenship education. According to the UNESCO, global citizenship education empowers learners to become active contributors to a more peaceful, inclusive, and sustainable. But what does this mean to students like myself? It means teaching us to understand that we are not only citizens of our countries, but also citizens of the world. Respect different cultures, defend human rights, care for the environment, and work together to solve global challenges. Today, our world faces climate change, conflict, discrimination, insecurity, misinformation, and poverty. These problems do not stop at national borders. They affect all of us. As Eleanor Roosevelt said, where universal human rights begin is in small places, close to home. This is why every school must begin this change now, because global citizenship education teaches peace and unity. It helps students respect different instead of pairing them. It develops critical thinking so young people can question false and make wise decisions. It promotes environmental responsibility because protecting our planet is protecting our future. And it prepares students for a connected world where cooperation matters and more than division. Martin Luther King Jr. says, "Intelligence plus character, that is the goal of true education." So, schools must not only produce intelligent students, rather produce responsible leaders. As Malala Yousafzai remind us, one child, one teacher, one book, one pen can change the world. The future of our world is sitting in today's gathering. Global citizenship education is no longer optional. It is necessary, and every school needs it now. Let everyone know how not only to succeed for themselves, but how to serve humanity. Thank you.
And as a teenager, I honestly feel this topic is something young people can relate to a lot. Because when people talk about education, we mostly hear things like marks, careers, achievements, and success. And of course, those things matter a lot. But sometimes I wonder that are schools only preparing us for jobs? Or are they also preparing us for their life in society? Because our generation is growing up in a very different world. Every single day, we are surrounded by social media, opinions, online arguments, pressures, and so much information that sometimes it becomes difficult to understand what is right and what's simply loud. And that's why I think golden citizenship education is genuinely important today. Not because students need another chapter to study, but because we need guidance on how to become responsible people. I think schools should also teach students things like empathy, respect, communication, and especially how to disagree without turning everything into hate or conflict. Because honestly, many teenagers today know how to react quickly, but not always how to listen carefully and patiently. And I'm not blaming, of course, I'm not blaming young people for that, nor am I blaming schools. I think it's because nobody really teaches us these things properly. That's also why I believe global citizenship education should not only stay theoretical. Students should experience it through debates, discussions, community work, leadership activities, and opportunities where students actually participate and express their ideas. Because values are not developed through memorization alone, they develop through experience and interaction. And personally, I think most teenagers do want to contribute positively. We want to feel heard, we want to feel included, and of course, we want to feel like our generation can actually make society better. That is why global citizenship education matters so much right now. Because schools should not only help us become successful students, they should also help us become responsible citizens and better human beings. And if schools can do both, then education becomes truly powerful. Thank you so much.
Yeah, just wanted to add maybe one thing that we can actually focus on in order to achieve the balance. I do believe that it has to start from ourselves. As educators, staff members, in order to lead, you must first know how to follow. So if we are teaching our students that we should have this kind of balance and should participate more in learning other cultures and respect them, and we should do this ourselves first. And the issue is sometimes there are these kind of, let's say, staff members that they don't do this on the other side, total opposite. They actually feed, this kind of issue. No, you know what? Our culture is way better. Or the total opposite. We don't believe in our culture. We have to blindly follow other cultures in order to be cool, like I mentioned. So I do believe that we have to start from the house, from the inside, by ourselves first. That's
I think
all.
we also need to realize that education is for our children. And when I listen to our students today, every one of them told us what they needed. They didn't question the value of global citizenship education. They asked for more of it. And we have to realize too that they are the ones entering the world. We're already in it. And to really think very carefully about what they need to flourish and be successful. And each one of our brilliant, and they were women today, our brilliant female leaders of the future spoke about unity, compassion, but opportunities to practice, opportunities to get out in the world and experience it, to volunteer, to see things firsthand. They're telling us what they need.
Actually, absolutely pick up on what Donna's saying there, this opportunity to engage. We've got young people with that very healthy curiosity. They want to find out more. That's exactly what we should be leaning into, because when you've got that healthy curiosity, you don't have fear. And where I suppose we see so many tensions through history, even around the world today, motivated by a fear and a resistance against just allowing space for people to be different, in creating and perpetuating ideas of hierarchy and perfection and betterness, which are all in our own heads. So I think anything where we see the next generation showing that openness to let go of fear, to let go of this territorialness. And this, I know there's space for everybody. And actually, if we are a very diverse and a very cosmopolitan humanity, that's a good thing. That trying to homogenize humanity and trying to say that global citizenship will mean that everybody has similar values and similar presentation. No, that's really not the direction that, and I don't think any of us believe that anyway. But I think to lose our fear of difference would, I think, be a great way to start embedding and realizing global citizenship as a mindset, as a character trait, much more I guess strongly. It's maybe a hangover from the past, that people are afraid of what will happen if I let difference in, what will happen if I make space for diversity, what will happen. And it's fear of the otherness that is so toxic and is so really unnecessary. We see that in young children. They're not afraid of other people. They're not afraid of people who look different, who behave. They're not afraid. They're curious. So at some point they've learnt to be suspicious, to be afraid, to be antagonistic. That's a taught reaction. It's not an instinctive one, I don't think.
You said, I think another important part of global citizenship is learning adaptability, as it's something really important today. Because, the world is changing so quickly, and the young people need to learn how to adjust. See, understanding different perspectives and growing with change instead of fearing it really makes a teenager, capable enough and strong enough, we can say. That's all I wanted to add.
Global citizenship, or rather cultural intelligence. What are we really talking about? Are we really making everyone the citizen of every country? all the people in the current generation that are going to come into the workforce are currently digital sovereigns. They are not coming from any specific ethnicity. They're not coming from any specific country. They are global citizens at the moment. But the problem is they are not culturally intelligent. They're not ready to accept the difference. The fear of difference, they have curiosity, but it has converted into unhealthy toxicity for reasons that are beyond the control of education. Because if you look across the globe, who are the people who control all the humans? They are the ones who are able to organize them into groups. Who's able to most efficiently organize people into groups? Policymakers. That's why they get elected to parliaments. But the problem is, if politics gets successful, global citizenship gets weaker. So we are right now sitting on a paradox where we have to find a way where global citizenship equates to earnings. Only then it can go beyond any demography, any geography, because at the end, humans need resources. So let's work towards having a far more culturally divergent and intelligent generation.